podcast. I do have a master's degree and I'm in social work, and I have 13 plus years as a child protective specialist. This is all in combination. As a child protective specialist, a foster care caseworker, a nationally certified domestic violence advocate. Um, I'm also an author of a book that I just wrote called Who She Is. I am a very spiritual person, and I have to bring that out because I find it over time I found it really difficult to differentiate who I am apart from my spirituality as a Christian and my identity as a Christian. Um, so my life's mission really has been over time that every woman I encounter, my mission has been to make sure that I leave her with more hope, make sure that I leave her with more joy, a little bit of peace, that I share in my life. So again, I leave a piece of my faith story to her as a reminder of life's possibilities. There's so many things that we go through in life, and a lot of times we tend to forget that hope will allow us to go forward. So this is a little bit about myself. So we're gonna jump in. The meaning of a relationship. So all of us, we just kind of assume relationship is one of those words where we just assume that people know what it means. And so we deal with people based on our understanding of what a relationship is supposed to be. But I'm going to define it for you in a brief manner that makes sense for all of us. Relationship is the way in which concepts, objects, or people are connected. We become connected through common ideologies, belief systems, practices, likeness. You're connected by blood and through marriage as well. The Bible tells us that we should love our neighbor as ourselves, right? This is like one of the key commandments that we were given is to love our neighbor as ourselves. And the reason that's important is because loving yourself is the prerequisite to loving others, right? We're talking relationships, so I want you to bear that in mind. Why it's important to love yourself first prior to trying to engage other people. So therefore, relationship starts with you. That's essentially the point I'm trying to drive home. That you can't have a relationship with someone before you have a relationship with yourself, and a healthy one at that. We treat people the way we treat ourselves. Whether or not we accept that to be true, we do treat people based on the way we have learned to treat ourselves. We've learned to accept ourselves. And we hear the saying that hurt people, right? So basically what that saying is anyone who has been hurt has a tendency of hurting another person, right? So it is true. Hurt people do hurt people. For us to have a healthy relationship, we must first love ourselves. Okay, so I repeat that again because the whole idea behind my presentation is to drive home that relationship starts with you. That's the whole idea about my presentation today, my workshop today. So I want to keep mentioning that until it becomes true and real for you. That relationship drives from you. So hurt people because those people have not learned to deal with the hurt that they've suffered. And so by not knowing, they're going to repeat the hurt unknowingly, right? They don't know what is even hurting them. They may not even be aware that they're being hurt or that they've been hurt to that extent that it's actually impacting their current life. So that's key here. So what are the types of relationships that we know to be true or that we are used to? Family, friendships, acquaintances, and romantic. And family, obviously, we know is by blood, by marriage. When we talk about friendships, those are the relationships that we choose, right? We go out of our way to choose our own friends. So that's a choice to be made. And then acquaintances are those that we are refusing to commit, right, fully. We're refusing to let people know that I have to, like, I'm not connected to that person. Maybe there's something, like, they're good, but not good enough for me to call them my friend, right? They're not good enough for me, or there's something, there's no level of closeness or intimacy well enough for me to commit to the word friendship, right? We always think about commitment when it comes to dating relationships and marriage and things like that. But it's not only dating relationship. It's not only that. It's very important to understand that even within the concept of friendship, that you're able to talk about your commitment level, and what you will tolerate and what you will believe, right? Together as friends. So you can't go on and say, well, somebody's my friend and the person hurt me, or they did something I didn't like. Well, did the person know that what they were going to do was going to offend you that in that manner? Perhaps, perhaps not, because there was no determination and discussion on the expectations, the boundaries that are expected within the relationship. Okay. So as I'm talking, if you have any questions, make sure that you write it down, and towards the end we're going to have an opportunity to ask those questions. I thank you for muting all of your mics, and your videos are also off, and so we're going to proceed. And then there's romantic relationships. We know what romantic relationships are. We're talking again, that marriage. When I say family, I'm referring more to like mom and dad, right? Your own family. And the romantic is those that we choose to go out with, we choose to date. Okay. And then, so in defining and moving forward in terms of your relationship with others, we have to start with you. So who are you? Who are you? So what makes up who you are is a totality of things. Okay. It's a totality of your belief system, a totality of your cultural identification, your values, your fears, your aspirations, your past trauma, and your self-image. And I'm going to break it down just a tad bit, right? So your cultural identifications has to do with perhaps, you're African, or you consider yourself American, Indian. There is something that defines you as a person. And so that's what I mean by your cultural identification. Some don't identify with anybody. They just say, I'm Caucasian, and that's it. I'm white, or white, or I'm black, and that's that. But culture is beyond that. It's more contextual. There's a belief system, there's a way of practicing, and things like that. And then there's values. Your value system is things that you don't negotiate. So with any relationship, there's always a value system, right? And that value is basically saying, I will not negotiate this part of myself, because this is what I stand by and this is what I go by. But if you don't know who you are, more than likely your values aren't intact. You haven't even decided what you will tolerate, because you don't know who you are. You may have been walking in fear. You may have been walking in worry. You may have been walking in the shadows of others, and you hadn't quite learned how to be yourself. So that's the danger in that. And your fears, again, because you're afraid to be who you are, you can't develop your value into yourself, right? You can't live and walk according to your truth. And past trauma refers to anything you've gone through as a child. As I said, we are a totality of our experiences, of our past, of all of these things. Trauma is very key. And a lot of communities, a lot of cultures do not respect or give heed to trauma. But trauma defines you to a certain extent, unless you consciously make the decision to say, this will not define me. But that takes being aware, becoming aware of that trauma that you have sustained. But if you're not aware of that trauma and the impact the trauma has had on your life, it's very easy to allow that to define who you are. And your self-image, really, your self-image is what you think really about yourself. How do you view yourself? How do you view yourself? That is your self-image. And you get your self-image from your self-concept, right? It's pretty much, they go hand in hand. You can use them interchangeably. You develop your self-concept, again, as a child. Everything we go through is in our childhood. We learned it right from our childhood, what is normal, how to interact with other people, and things like that. So as you grow up, the narrative you are fed is from your childhood. That's where that narrative comes from, of I'm pretty, I'm not pretty, I'm this way, I'm that way, accepting who you are from jump, right? And thinking that you are enough. All of that starts in our childhood. And then trust issues. There's so many people I encounter that have trust issues. And we have those trust issues because we learned it in infancy, because trust develops in infancy. So I'll give you a prime example. A baby, right? A baby comes home from the hospital, baby's hungry, baby's expecting is gonna cry, right? Everybody knows that babies cry. And so this baby cries and baby wants mommy to change or daddy to, feed, or hold, right? That's a need. That baby has a need from jump, from the very beginning. But eventually, there are so many issues that women in particular go through after birth. And postpartum is one of those issues. And for whatever reason, if the woman is depressed, or maybe not depressed, but not quite experienced enough and doesn't really understand the concept of, bonding with her child, the developmental stages that child is going through, the mom might become neglectful unknowingly. So it's not so much that mom is neglectful and doesn't want to care for the child, but it could simply be that mom doesn't know. And so that child can be left to cry on their own. That child may be left to, may not be held long enough. There's some school of thought that say, don't hold that baby too much. You're going to spoil the baby. So when the baby cries, you put the baby in the bed and just kind of leave the baby. So you want to be mindful of that, right? Because that impacts the bond that you create with that child. And the bond is going to determine whether that child learns to trust or not. So when a baby cries and nobody picks up this baby, nobody feeds this baby, there's a need that the baby has, and the need is not being met. And whenever that need is not being met, this child is now learning that you shouldn't trust the world. The world, there's no security in the world. So the baby in infancy is learning security, is learning trust. And as you get older, through childhood and adulthood, you end up living and believing that you still can trust people, because people won't be there for you when you need them, because people, do not keep their word. And because of that, and if you have like a strained relationship with your parent, or, there's no father in the home for women, you're learning relationship without realizing that I'm learning how to have a relationship with a member of the opposite sex. And in this case, it's your father, but really what you feel about your father, you're going to transfer it to the men you meet in your life. And If you look at some women who are, there are women who are crazy about older men. I'm here looking for an older man because older men will satisfy what I need. If you ask the question deep enough, you will discover that that woman may not have had her father in her life. You may discover that if there is a father, the relationship is a little strained. And so unconsciously, you're looking for a father figure. And so you keep looking, you keep dating, and you're dating in a way men that look like your father, because that is what you need. That is what you're missing in your life. So let's jump to the next. So I have here what is called the equality wheel. I mentioned that I was a nationally certified domestic abuse victim advocate. And basically, I worked with a lot of abused women when I was working for the military. And I usually use this wheel to the women who, I say women a lot because it's 98%, it used to be 90% of my cases. So a DV is a a gendered crime. So I'm comfortable seeing women. So equality will basically, I show it to the woman and say, let's compare this to the violence and inequality wheel, right? The abusive wheel. So you look at it and we go through the circle, of the behaviors that are considered to be healthy. So as I'm talking, I want you to think about this. Is my relationship healthy? And if so, these are some of the standards that you can judge it against. Okay. So because of time, we're not going to go through every single one of them, but the equality wheel, what it does is it creates boundaries. It creates boundaries because in that wheel, there is mutual sacrifice. There is mutual respect, right? There is realistic expectations, right? So I'm not being controlled and I'm not controlling my partner. The relationship it goes both ways. We sacrifice equally. There's no form of abuse whatsoever. There's no emotional, there's no physical, there's no financial, there is no form of abuse whatsoever. There's understanding, there is support, there's accountability and responsibility. And accountability is key. And you learn that in childhood. Again, you learn that in childhood because there are people that will do things and blame you for doing it, right? You didn't do it, but they feel as though you ought to be blamed for their behavior. They're not being accountable. Maybe you have a partner. You're afraid to go to the partner and say, hey, I really don't like what you said, or I don't like, you're walking on eggshells because this person will never take accountability for what they've done or for what their part in whatever it is that's going on. And responsibility is saying, I'm responsible for my own feelings. I'm responsible for my own behavior. I'm responsible for everything that happens. So that's the piece that's key in relationships, and a lot of people don't have that. Also, there is love and not obligation. Specifically in family relationships, blood is thicker than water. So you tend to do things because it's your blood. Why would you not? I need money. Give me the money. And truly, is blood really thicker than water? We don't know, right? It's based on your experiences and it's subject to personal interpretation. I beg to differ, right? So, but when you are in an equal relationship, a healthy relationship, love is automatic. Love is expected, right? Love is what you do. And offense is less. You're not offended easily. Forgiveness flows out of that. You're not obligated, like I have to do it because it's my mother, versus, oh, I would love to do that for my mom. My mom needs me to do this. I'm going to do it. So you're willing, you're giving in abundance of yourself. So that's what healthy looks like to a certain extent. How do you deal with others? We learn, as I said, how to interact from how we are raised. So when you were growing up, if you were constantly being put down, you were constantly being told, you're not good enough, you're too fat, you're too ugly, you're whatever you're being thrown at, was thrown to you when you were growing up. That's kind of how you learn to deal with yourself. And then when you see other people, you bully them. When you look at bullies, we see it in the school system. How do they deal with other people? They bully them. And bullying comes out of a place of fear. Bullying comes out of a place of pain. And when you see those kids that are bullying, you're thinking, man, this kid is something. But really, the kid may have gone through something, and the only way to get attention, to get some kind of concern from adults is by bullying other kids. And even as adults are bullies. Social media, adults have become serious bullies in this day and age. Cyberbullying is real. How do you deal with others? Do you respond to others out of a place of pain? Right? I forgot to mention earlier, as parents, you have to be careful not to raise your children out of the pain of your past. It's easy to transfer, how you feel on your children. Don't trust anybody. Men are evil. Men are this. And you're transferring all of that mess and baggage on your children. You may not even realize you're doing it. But because as a mom, as a dad, you never healed from what you went through, you automatically assume your child should not have to walk through those paths. And so you're going to transfer that onto them. And it's done unconsciously, but it's done nonetheless. Your behavior is crucial to your character because it displays to others who you are on the inside. It's crucial. How you behave when people see you, you go to a grocery store, God forbid somebody came in front of the line. They should have been on the back, we know. But for whatever reason, they decide they didn't see you. So they go in front of the line. Excuse me. You go all out and all off. You just go off. Or if you don't excuse the person, all kinds of 4-letter words are flying out your mouth. Listen, the book of Matthew tells us that it is not what we take inside of us that causes, pain or that makes things bad for us. It is what comes out of us. It is the words that you speak, because out of the heart, right, does the mouth speak, right? Out of the abundance of the heart, you regurgitate things that you feel in your heart. So your behavior is a result of what's on the inside of you. So when I see you, I don't know what you're thinking, but your behavior will point me in the direction of somehow who you are. Because this is how I'm going to know you and get to know you further. This is how I'm going to decide to date you. I'm going to decide to marry you. I'm going to decide to work with you because of your behavior. So your behavior is crucial. And your behavior is as a result of what you feel on the inside, because there's a need. Listen, when you snap at people, somebody asks you a question, well, you should have known better. Or you yell at those kids. Well, it may seem like because of what the person did, you had to do X, Y, and Z. But in reality, you find out that no, I was tired. I was hungry. I was very sleepy. So there's a need on the inside of me that is causing me to exhibit some behaviors that have nothing to do with that person I'm yelling at. And I want you today to be mindful of that, because we're so busy. We're going, we're coming, we're moving so much. But one of the key things in life is to ensure that your relationships are healthy, because your relationships determine the trajectory of your life. You may accept this or you may not. But the nature of your relationships tells you how healthy your life is. And if every relationship you're involved in has some level of negativity, always fighting, some people's middle name is drama. When you see them, you see drama. You want to negate and remove yourself from such filth. Remove yourself from it. And that is, in essence, right, looking introspectively within yourself. Excuse me. Within yourself and recognizing that there is some work to be done, because the only common denominator between me and all my relationships is me. So I need to start looking at myself and saying, what is all of this? What is going on? There is something called emotional intelligence. And I'm not going to dive in too deep, but I want to give you just a little bit of it. When you get a chance, go look it up. Because emotional intelligence today is being taught in all these big organizations. It's a term, a concept that's been there. It's a term we use in psychology. It's a term we use in social work. But it wasn't as significant until big businesses started realizing that people are not effective. People are not functioning because there's something missing. And what is that thing that's missing? Is the emotional intelligence. What is emotional intelligence? Having awareness of your own emotions, right? Awareness of your own emotions, having the ability to control those emotions. So when you come to me and talking to me about something, I may be triggered. I may believe what you're saying. I may not really accept what you're saying. I may be judging you. I need to be aware that, Ruth, you're judging this person. Ruth, this is too deep for you. Ruth, you can't handle this. It could be a friend, it could be a mom, it could be you name it. But the key point is, whomever it is, there is something that this person, there is something that this person is saying that is triggering. So there needs to be an awareness that comes from you. And with that awareness, you know how to respond. So you learn how to respond. You're intelligent about your response. So you must take hold of yourself and control your emotions. There are rooms that you will enter. You can't stay in those rooms because you haven't taken control of your emotions. There are places that you need to go, you're going to go, that you can't quite stay there, right? Your gift will make room for you. You enter that room, but you ain't going to stay there because you haven't learned how to deal with yourself and others enough to control and subdue that lashing out. You must make your character development your priority. As I said, we're busy. There's so much going on. Your character development should be like very imperative to oneself. You may be a leader and you're lashing out at your subordinates. You want to be mindful of that. Try to look back and say, how do I behave? What do I do? And things like that. Anger, hatred, jealousy, low self-esteem, they all hinder your ability to have healthy relationships. If you're always throwing a tantrum, kids throw tantrum. My daughter's throwing a tantrum. I'm looking at her like, I don't know what you want me to do, but I ain't going to do nothing to you. I'm just going to watch you. You're going to play yourself out. You're going to be tired. As an adult, adults want you to take responsibility for their emotions. You are upset and you want somebody else to feel bad and guilty for you being upset. You chose to be offended. You chose to be upset. How can you expect somebody else to carry that load? Release yourself. Today, release yourself of all of that. Well, she said this and I don't know. I feel so bad. Maybe like I should have. Release yourself. What she said, what he said, you can't control that. How they feel, you can't control that. They're responsible for their relationships and their feelings. Okay. There's something I call the love formula. And In my book, Who She Is, which you can find on Amazon, by the way, Who She Is, in that book, I call it self-love. Self-love is the remedy for many of the issues women go through. And you will have an opportunity to, follow me or find me places, and I can delve in more into this whole self-love concept. And right after I launched the book, it came to me. It's called the Love Formula. And the Love Formula basically is saying love, it has the potency to heal. Love heals. Love is kind, as the Bible tells us. So when you love, when you have so much love, you're kind to yourself, you choose yourself, and you love others. But you don't love others at the expense of yourself. Okay? Anytime you're loving somebody at the expense of you, there is a problem somewhere. We don't sacrifice who we are for somebody else. Family dynamics, I talked about it, right? We grow up thinking this is normal. This is how things are supposed to be. With family, you need to learn to set your boundaries. I'm talking about your siblings, your parents, your cousins, set boundaries with those people. Set boundaries and protect your space to maintain your mental health. Friendships. Who are my friends? These are things I want you to think about. If you have a pen, write it down. Are they dead weight? Oh, we've been best friends for 10 years. Yeah, you've been best friends for 10 years, but this person has always betrayed you for 10 years. Why do you feel compelled to keep this person in your life? That's the question you got to answer. What role does my friend play in my life? Is this friend only there when there's bad things? Hey girl, oh my gosh, I lost my job. They're here. They want to talk to you. They want to talk to you for hours. Hey girl, I can't believe, this happened and that happened. Bad news, they're there. Hey girl, I'm starting a business. I want to launch my line. I want to do that. Girl, you always doing something. Girl, you think you can do that? Nah, I wouldn't do that, because selling Mary Kay, not in this day and age. I wouldn't do that. What role does your friend play in your life? Is your friend trustworthy? Share something on Facebook. Share a picture. Heck, share a dog. 200 likes. Post your business. 2 likes. If that. If you're lucky. For some reason, businesses are just invisible. Your relationships. Begin to redefine those relationships. Begin to check and see, who am I giving access to in my life? And how am I going to do that to ensure that I maintain my mental health? Marriage. Oh, we can go so deep into marriage. And you guys will have the opportunity to, as I said, reach out to me. And what are your marital expectations? Because your expectations is how you're going to deal with this individual. Are you saving all of the mess inside of you and hoping that he's going to make me happy? Or she's going to make me happy? Well, the reality is, our job in marriage is not to make each other happy, right? It's not our job. That's a lot to put on one person. You're carrying 30 years of baggage. You're going to give it to another adult and say, take it, handle all of this, fix me. You must be whole. And wholeness will stem from your relationship with yourself. Because marriage exposes everything wrong with you tripled. It's like a magnifying glass. Marriage is like a magnifying glass. Everything, any flaw, any problems that you overlooked, ignored, acted like it wasn't there, pretended it wasn't there, marriage will highlight in bright yellow what it is. Okay? Is there respect and sacrifice in marriage? Do I feel heard? Do I feel important? Am I an asset to my marriage? Am I so important in my marriage that if I'm not there, there is something missing? You got to work your way to become an asset in your marriage. Am I walking on eggshells? Am I afraid to go to my partner and say something to my partner? You're walking on eggshells. So I'm going to give you the next 10 minutes. If you have any questions, feel free to, I believe you can take off the mute now, maybe, and just ask the question, and we can go from there. This is how you can reach me, Ruth Yeboah. And Instagram is at the Ruth Yeboah. This is my cell phone. You can text me, call me, whatever. You can visit my website, which is ruthyeboah.com. And on my website, there is a 15-minute consultation that you can, sign up, register, and we can assess and talk about things. And then we can determine together, could I be of service to you? So that's an option if you choose to go to the website and do that. Okay, so questions? Thanks for being attentive. How do we end this? Questions. Okay, I think there's a chat, right? Okay. So are the questions, okay, you guys are going to type the questions. Hello. Okay, got it. Could you please go back to the slide with your info? Oh, okay. We can do that. Okay. Is that cool? Okay. There's a private message. I'm trying to see if I can read it. You guys have to forgive me on this, okay? Okay. Okay. I think this is it. I can't figure out this computer thing.
Ruth, everyone has the ability to unmute themselves if they have a question.
Oh, okay.
And they can also message you in the chat box.
Okay. So guys, we're here till, I gave you the 10 minutes. I rushed through my presentation. So you got 8 minutes to use the rest of the time. If you have a question, a comment, whether you can relate to this, you can unmute yourself and say it, or text it, or type it. Okay, there's a question. Kihande, she says, how do you deal with coworkers that hurt you with their words and actions always, and when you bring this to their knowledge, they play the victim? These people are called gaslighters, right? I know exactly what you're talking about. They just gaslight you. They say things and then they say, what? Are you serious? I was just joking. Like, this was not even that deep. Like, come on, girl. Remember the last time you said, right? These people just gaslight you. They make you feel like you just exaggerating too much. Like, this is not even that deep. Why are you so upset all the time? Listen, it's unhealthy. Period. It's unhealthy. You can't control what they do. So what I'm going to say, Kihande, is to just look within yourself and say, one, why am I offended, right? What are they saying to me that offends me? Are they belittling me? Are they making me feel like I don't belong there, or that I'm not good enough, that I don't perform well enough? Whatever those questions are, try to answer them. And if you have to take pen and paper, that's the easiest way out. Are they making me feel bad because I'm already feeling bad about something? I'm already like feeling, uncomfortable about something, and they're just kind of magnifying it. So it's important to find out the root cause of that pain, right? They're always hurting you with their words. Why are their words hurtful? Are they calling you names flat out, right? So you want to make sure that you can answer those questions. And answer is, it's unhealthy. You might have to just pull from them. The workspace is supposed to be for work. A lot of us sometimes end up building relationships. I have friends that I met at work that from years ago, 12 years ago, and we're still friends. It happens. It's not preferable. It's kind of like you don't date at work. It's not preferable, but if you feel like you want these people in your life, have the conversation again. If they don't accept, boundaries are for you, my dear. Boundaries are for you. They're not for the person. So you tell the person, I will not and cannot tolerate this. If they don't accept it, it's time to let them go. Okay? It's work. You're there to work. You're there to get your money. Get your money and be out. Does that help? Let me know if that helps. And then there is Rosie. I have a girl in my life that's there for me, but she's broken. She lashes out easily to her kids and is very reactive to certain situations. I'm not sure if she's someone I should keep in my life. She's there for me, but I don't know if she's a good influence. She also always cancels last minute when we make plans. What do you think? I think it's time to go. Just to say the very least. It's time to release this friend. This is the dead weight I was talking about. Friends who do not necessarily add to our life. When you say she's always there for you, I'm pretty sure when you need to vent, she's listening. When she, I'm pretty sure that's what you're referring to. You can talk to yourself for all of that. You can write in your journal for all of that. Addition, right? Addition, adding to your life will be what? Will simply be, this person sustains my kids. They can talk to my kids. My kids can turn to this person for help. That's key. That's very important. So it's dead weight. She helps take care of my daughter. It does not excuse the behavior your friend is exhibiting. Have you addressed this friend? Have you said, hey girl, you crazy as all red? Have you told this person this? I'm curious. Because a lot of times we don't like something and we don't voice it out. Have you told this person this you're telling us? Rosie, if you can just speak, you can speak. We got 4 minutes. So she helps take my daughter to school. I've told her about her lashing out. She did work on it, but she's still very broken. You see? But
hey,
again,
I'm here.
Okay,
Can
good.
you hear me?
Yeah. I see the note.
Sorry.
So hurt people do hurt people.
Yes, and I think she is hurt, and that's what it is. So I remember one day I had my kids at my house, and she came over one day, and she just went off on her daughter in front of my kids and stuff, and it just wasn't the type of parenting style that I'm okay with. And then the next time that she came over, I had a talk with her on my porch, and I said, hey, I just want you to be mindful of how you're disciplining your daughter or talking to her in my home. And I just try to keep a very peaceful home and energy in here. So she did, she was okay with me saying that. She was like, wow, I'm so thankful that you told me, and I do appreciate you, being honest with how you feel with me. And I was glad that she took it in that adult type of manner and didn't just oh, well, whatever, I'm not coming over anymore. She did respect my feelings. So I appreciated that. I think she meets me with the type of friendships I'm okay with. She meets me halfway. But then we don't have conversations where it's about building for the future or bettering our lives and things like that.
Role.
And even if they are, yeah.
Remember,
even if it ever is conversations like that, it just, there's never a follow through on her end.
Got it.
So I don't know.
So remember from the presentation, that's why I took you from childhood. It's clear to me this friend went through things in childhood. I guarantee you. Yes. One, you can do her a great favor and give her my website. She can go register for a 15-minute consult. That will be helpful to a certain extent. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to say, hey, Rosie said this. I won't even know who it is. I'll just go by whatever message came in. I'm very confidential in the work that I do, the coaching and the mentoring. Yeah. So I think that offer her that, right? Offer her resources, because it sounds like you love and care for this person. So in the interest of time, I just want you to, give her my information, refer her. You can find things on Google, send it to her, whatever. People need resources to improve themselves, to address the issues in their past. Many don't have those resources, but there are resources available. When the person accepts those resources, then the person wants to change. Saying I want to change and doing the work to change are two different things. And if she's not doing the work, she doesn't want to.
Next thing I was going to ask you too is I have offered her other, even for your dinners and stuff, your women of value dinners. I have invited her to those and networking events and just things to be around positive
Right.
energy.
Right.
And she's always turned it down or made excuses. So what do you do in that case? Do you
Okay.
still love them from a distance,
Yeah.
or do you
So
cut
what
them
I
off completely?
what I want you to do, because we're out of time, we have to leave at 11:50. What I want you to do is inbox me, right? You have social media, you have the cell phone. Inbox me and let's talk
Yes.
about this, because this is so real, and I want to be able to be of help to you, so we can talk about that. Anybody else on here, I urge you to get who she is. Contact me, reach out to me, and any other questions that you have. I'm a wealth of resource. I have a lot of information on anything. And if